Okay, I'm very excited to have on the Goldstein on Gelt show, Aaron Fifield, who is the host of the podcast Chat with Traders, which has had literally millions and millions of downloads to that podcast. Aaron, listen, I know you talk to traders, and you've spoken to many, many of them over the few years you've been doing your show. What's the attitude that someone has to have in order to be a really good trader?
Yeah, I mean, attitude is a really big part of it. Someone definitely needs to have a lot of discipline, be willing to put in a lot of hard work. I mean, there's a common stat that goes around, something like 90% of traders fail. I mean, anyone who's been trading for a couple of years has probably heard that over and over again, but I know many of your listeners are, I guess, kind of newer to the active trading space. So, a large portion of active traders don't make it. So it definitely takes a lot of hard work, a lot of perseverance, and someone who's willing to put in the work to actually find a strategy and find an edge, something that has a high probability of actually making money in the long run.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because I think that in so many areas, like in anything in life, people always go, oh, look, it's so easy to make money in real estate. You just buy a property, you take out a mortgage, you flip it a year or two later, and you make your 20%. And somehow people believe this is true, and they don't understand that there's actually a lot of hard work that goes into it. When you talk about trading, what is it generally that you mean? Because trading is kind of a broad term. It's like saying, yeah, I go to restaurants. What are you referring to?
When I talk about trading and the traders who I speak with, these are people who are actively trading financial markets. So that might range from equities like stocks, Apple, IBM, that type of thing, to things like commodities, oil, grains, corn, whatever it might be. And then also things like currencies, trading the US dollar against the Australian dollar. So the whole gamut of different financial products. So these are most of the people I speak with are either buying and selling intraday, and they kind of fall into the category of day traders. Otherwise, people who are more swing traders to position traders. So these are people who might be holding positions anywhere from a couple days up to a couple weeks. Anything beyond that kind of gets closer towards what could be categorized as investing, just broadly speaking. And I don't really speak to too many investors. So the people I focus on and the things I focus on myself are more active trading strategies.
So it always sounds to me when we talk about trading, or I talk to traders, that this is a super high risk kind of endeavor. And my guess is that there are probably other misconceptions that people have about trading, or is that a truism that it in fact is high risk and only meant for people who have the money to lose? What are some of the common myths or misconceptions that people have about trading?
I think that's a good question and something worthwhile bringing up, because a lot of people do think that trading is very high risk, and it definitely is. But if you really step back and take a look at most things, there's a lot of risk involved in everything. I mean, even just owning your own home, there's a lot of risk in that if you want to step back and really look at it. A lot of traders are actually quite risk adverse, and obviously risk profiles between traders varies quite a lot, but generally speaking here, I mean, a lot of traders are very conscious of risk, and depending on who you speak to, some might tell you that risk management is the key ingredient of successful trading. So a lot of active traders just put a huge amount of emphasis on managing their risk. They don't like to lose money. It's as simple as that. I mean, they're in this business to make money. So, if you take a lot of large losses, it's going to take you've got to work twice as hard, or maybe even harder than that, to recoup those losses and get back to just where you started. So you definitely can lose a lot of money very quickly if you don't know what you're doing and you don't manage your risk. I mean, that sort of is why it's so important to be disciplined, have a strategy, and there's a lot of factors that go into it. But it is high risk, but there's things that can be done to try and mitigate some of that risk.
We're talking with Aaron Fifield, who is the host of the Chat with Traders podcast, a very, very popular podcast about trading. He's been talking to us about, first of all, what are the attitudes and what are the personality traits that a trader has to have, and also talking about the concept that maybe trading isn't always as risky as we think. It always sort of feels to me that every time you're doing a trade, it's just a bet. So it takes investing, which is something that I deal with. In other words, as a financial advisor, I tend to be kind of the long-term investment strategy guy. And it seems like you're taking that and making it more into a casino. But the difference, I'm guessing, and maybe you could just help me to define this, is that in a casino, it's really just chance. There's some odds. You're either going to win or lose, and you're just playing those odds. Whereas when you're a trader, you're actually able to bring in some sort of strategy so that there's some tactical reason for each of your trades. Is that a fair distinction between casinos and trading?
Essentially, yeah. I mean, as a trader, you want to be the casino. You don't want to be the player in a casino. You want to try and act as though you are the casino. You want to stack probabilities in your favor. You want an edge. So you want a strategy with an edge. So if you do something enough times, over a large enough number of trades, you want a strategy that has a high probability of producing money in the long run. I mean, that's the way I like to look at things. And that's probably one thing I'd say to anyone who wants to get into trading is that unless you have an edge, you're severely disadvantaged. It's so key to be able to trade with an edge.
It seems that the people that have an edge are the people who are the hedge fund managers or the big institutions. Can a normal guy, guy like you and me, actually have an advantage over these big traders?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that first comes to mind is when you're talking about large billion-dollar fund managers or billion-dollar fund hedge funds, a lot of them, in some ways, they are the market. A guy like you and I, or probably majority of the people listening to this podcast, we have an advantage of being very nimble, so we can get in and out of markets depending. Obviously, as long as we're trading fairly liquid markets, we can get in and out fairly quickly, and I guess that's an advantage of being just a small guy. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the strategies that someone like you and I can trade, we trade very different strategies for the most part. So, someone who is trading billions of dollars, they can't just get in and out of the market within a couple hours, because they push the market around quite a lot. If they want to take out a large position in a certain company, they might work that position over a couple days. So, we're trading very different strategies to someone who's managing billions of dollars. So, yeah, absolutely, it's possible for smaller traders to get an edge.
Let's look at an example. We're talking about strategies. Let's say a guy's got $50,000 in savings, and he says, I think I listened to the Goldstein on Geld show, and I like this guy, Aaron, and I want to get started. First of all, how much money should he start with? And secondly, what would be kind of an opening strategy for someone like that to look at?
Okay, so two parts to that question. How much money to start with? I guess it's a tricky one to answer. It's a good question. It's difficult to answer. I normally suggest, and this is not financial advice, but I think $5,000 is a good starting amount just to get your feet wet. Some people try starting with $500. I think that's very difficult. I think a $5,000 account just to get your feet wet, get started is probably okay. Really what you want to be doing is you want to be trying to make good trades when you're starting out. You don't want to be trying to make money as such. You just want to be identifying and actually catching good trades. I think that's a good way to look at it. Instead of going, okay, I've got a $5,000 account, I want to try and compound this 20-fold, within the next 12 months. I think that's the wrong way of looking at it.
What is a good trade if it's not one that makes money?
Okay, so, it would make money, but you're not trying to compound your account by 20 times within the first year. I mean, that's unreasonable. I mean, sure, people have done it, but a lot of them are outliers. So really what you want to be doing when you start out as a new trader is you just want to be taking good trades. You don't want to be trying to swing for the fences and make $1 million in your first year. You want to identify good trades. Once you do that, it then becomes a matter of actually scaling up, adding size. Then you can think about adding more capital to your trading account and actually trying to push for larger profits.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like a great approach to getting started, putting in a reasonable amount of money given your overall net worth, and also not trying to swing for the fences as you described, because you might just end up wiping yourself out so quickly that you'll never really learn anything and you'll never develop into a good trader. I know one of the ways, Aaron, of learning to be a good trader is just to follow what other people do, and you are certainly at the forefront of that with your show and all that you do. So in the last few seconds, can you just tell us how can people follow you and follow your work?
The podcast is available at chatwithtraders.com. All the episodes are there. 100% free. Listen on demand anytime you like. And if you want to chat with me, I'm very active on Twitter, so probably the best way is to get at me there. At Chat with Traders is my handle.
Okay, we will put links to all of that at the show notes of today's show at goldsteinongelt.com. Aaron Fifield, thanks so much for taking the time.
Thanks very much, Doug. Appreciate it.
You've been listening to the Goldstein on Gelt Show with money maven Doug Goldstein. Check out all of Doug's money ideas at goldsteinongelt.com. Doug specializes in helping people who live outside the United States handle their U.S. investment accounts. If you have a question that you would like answered on the air or off, contact Doug at his website or send him an email to doug@profile-financial.com.